Comic Book Savant, episode 344.
I know this. This I know. All that I have, all that is me, resides inside my poetry. And every time I write a rhyme, it might be the line that sets minds free. And also, I know that I don't.
Welcome to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This week, it is all about Spider-Man Homecoming. We're going to go into a spoiler-filled review, but before we get into all that, as always, I'd like to give a shout-out to my friends over at the Comics Podcast Network. You can find them over at comicspodcast.com. It is just a great place to go find more of what you like. If you like this podcast and you want to find more like it, you can stop by the Comics Podcast Network at comicspodcast.com. They are literally hundreds of different shows listed there. It's a huge directory, just a one-stop shop of everything comic book related podcasting. You can find group related podcasts, publisher specific podcasts, group single person podcasts, you name it, in whatever this genre that we have of comics entertainment. Because I don't just think of it as podcast anymore, that you can find over at the Comics Podcast Network. The site, again, is comicspodcast.com. Definitely, I encourage you to check it out to find more like content. If you like this show and you just want to expand and find more or similar related content, that's the place to go. So if you have a moment, check that out. And last but not least, I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor for this and every episode, which is InStockTrades.com. Check out the site. It's the best place you can go online when you're looking for any type of collected editions when it comes to absolute editions, omnibus, masterworks, just your standard trades, the Epic Collection soft covers they do now. You name it. If it's collected and it's comics, you can find it over at InStockTrades.com. If you're unfamiliar with the site, if you place any order $50 or more, you get free shipping. That is only for U.S. customers. If you're an international customer and you still want to use the site, you're welcome to do so. You just don't get that extra bonus of for the $50 orders or more to get that free shipping. But they do have some of the cheapest and most competitive international shipping rates around, so you can still partake upon all the great savings through InStockTrades.com. If you have a moment, check them out. Let them know that you heard about them here first on the Comic Book Savant podcast. Also, with that being said, they've been a great partner in close to, soon to be less than a month now, almost 11 year partnership that I've had with them. They've allowed me to do giveaways to you guys. So if you're unfamiliar, I announced it last episode, we're having the 11-year anniversary contest is currently running. To enter into the contest, you can go to, you subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Comic Book Savant, and just follow me on Instagram, share it on Instagram, hashtag Comic Book Savant. All the entries I get that are submitted through now until August 5th. You have August 5th, 2017, 11:59 Eastern Standard Time. Any entries that I get between now and then, go in and we're going to have I'm going to randomly select 3 winners, not just one, not just 2. We're doing it big. And I owe all this into my partnership that I have with InStockTrades.com. They really went out. We're going to do a $75, $50, and $25 gift certificate to InStockTrades.com. It's the biggest giveaway that I've ever done on the podcast. I owe it all to them. They're allowing me to give back to you guys. It's been 11 years. I felt bad last year that just due to personal reasons, I had this show took a hiatus during the summer, and I didn't do it right. It was the 10-year anniversary, and I felt like I didn't do it right, and I wanted to make it up to you guys and do something big this year. So again, you just subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow me on Instagram, share a post. Just in the post that you're subscribing, just share hashtag Comic Book Savant, so I can go back and search it on Instagram and find it. And all those entries, one per person, please. And we're going to do 3 winners. So I'm going to do it on the anniversary show, which would be the week of August 11th, or trying to remember what episode it's going to be. The episode right before August 11th. That I'm going to announce the winner on the show. I feel real good about it. Like I said, it took some time to put together, but I told you guys I had something big for you guys. I feel like this is, pretty big. We're going to have 3 winners this time, $75, $50, and $25. So, top 3 entries, boom. You get some great comic shopping out of it. So I thought that would be one good way to usher in the 11th year of the podcast and celebrate everything that we've done together as a community from the very beginning. So it's just my way of giving back, and stock trades allowing me to do so. So I really appreciate them coming in and helping me do that for you guys. But now what we're here to talk about, it is Spider-Man Homecoming. This has been one of the most anticipated movies. I know some of us were leery because we've had, essentially this is the 6th Spider-Man movie within, a 17-year period. This is the 3rd reboot that we've had of this franchise. We had the iconic 3 movies with Sam Raimi that, really are one of the contributing forces to everything that we have now when it comes to this world of comic book movies. We owe to that series. Over at Sony, that Sam Raimi started with Tobey Maguire. Then, it hasn't been that long ago. We had the Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2. Unfortunately, it didn't work out the way everybody planned it to. It pretty much, the first movie was decent. Second movie was just a hot mess. A lot of rumors went on behind the scenes on it was too much studio interference and so forth. It fizzled out. I felt like they had a good Spider-Man in Andrew Garfield. I loved Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy. They had really great chemistry. They just never had the proper stories to support the cast that they had. It was good bones there, but it never reached its full potential. They scrapped it. Sony made the deal with Marvel Studios, so they did this cooperative effort. We had Tom Holland, which is this generation Spider-Man, and he made an appearance in Captain America Civil War. It went over like gangbusters, so they did this movie. And here we are now, the 3rd incarnation of Spider-Man in, like I said, pretty much less than 17 years. Because if I remember correctly, the first Spider-Man dropped 2000. If I want to remember correctly, I want to say it's 2000, 2001. So we've had this is the 6th movie in 17 years, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But back to this Spider-Man Homecoming, again, a cooperative agreement through Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios, directed by John Watts, written by John Goldstein, John Watts, John Francis Daly, Christopher Ford, Chris McKenna, and Eric Summers. All of these writers are writers that are credited in the film, and the breakdown is as follows. Several months after the events of Captain America Civil War, Peter Parker, with the help of his mentor Tony Stark, tries to balance his life as an ordinary high school student in Queens, New York, while fighting crime as his superhero alter ego, Spider-Man. As a new threat, the Vulture emerges. And the cast is as follows. We have Tom Holland as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. We have Michael Keaton as Adrian Toomes, a.k.a. the Vulture. We have Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. We have Marissa Tomei as Aunt May. Jon Favreau back as Happy Hogan. We have Zendaya as Michelle. We have Donald Glover as Aaron Davis. Jacob Batalon as Ned. Laura Harrier as Liz Allen. We have Tony Revolori as Flash Thompson. Bokeem Woodbine as Herman Schultz, a.k.a. The Shocker. Hannibal Buress as Coach Wilson. Michael Chernus as Phineas Mason, a.k.a. The Tinkerer. And we have a brief appearance by Michael Mando as Mark Gargan, a.k.a. The Scorpion. And we also have, I'm going to talk about this because this is the spoiler review, we also have Gwyneth Paltrow back as Pepper Potts, which I thought was awesome. Excuse me. Now, getting into this, there's so much stuff that I want to talk about with this movie. First of all, I really enjoyed this movie. I love the fact that they went out of their way to not retread over past material. I think that was kind of one of the downfalls in a way of the Amazing Spider-Man movies, is that they kind of retreaded a lot of the same stuff that was already done by Sam Raimi as far as Uncle Ben's origin and everything. And I like that John Watts and the collaborative efforts of the two studios were cool with, we don't need to do a third iteration where we go back to his origin. It's been established. We've done 2 other movies that handled his origin story. You know, we imply it, but we don't. They just jumped into the story. The cast was phenomenal from top to bottom. Everyone, even the secondary characters, all the actors brought their A game and did a really good job with their performances. I have to say, for anyone, I felt like this was definitely a different type of superhero movie. It's not stuff with action. I felt like it was equally balanced with action set pieces with a lot of character development. So some people might not like that. So it might not be for everyone. I think it worked for me. I dig that because sometimes it just gets repetitive if everyone's using the same formula. So I like that the studios have caught on, and Marvel especially, that they do different things. Like you have the space opera feel of stuff with the Guardians. You could do a heist movie with like Ant-Man. You could do, with them and Sony coming together. You could do basically, this is like a coming of age, high school, 80s feel, John Hughes type of movie. And it really worked when you look at, things like Pretty in Pink and The Breakfast Club and stuff like that. It is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It has all those bits and pieces kind of like infused in with a modern sensibility, and it just happens to be a superhero movie as well. And I think that's what makes it stand out. That's what made it fun and really work. Another thing, I feel like I just have to say this. I feel like Michael Keaton's Adrian Toomes, the Vulture character, will go down for me right now as probably as the second best villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe next to Loki. I love the way that Marvel and Sony nailed it this time around, and he was a very worthwhile villain. They immediately gave him a story and a purpose, and you understood why he was motivated to do the things he was doing in the movie. Not everyone would have broke and went to that extreme, but you understood why he would do the things he did, which made you somewhat sympathetic to him, but at the same time just made him more three-dimensional because you knew what his motivations were. It wasn't just, I'm a villain, so I just do bad stuff. It was he had a really grounded reason and an understandable reason to do what he was doing. So, and like I said, I just made him more fleshed out and made him more three-dimensional, and that you, not saying necessarily you could care about, but he was a likable character at the same time. And I think that's what makes Loki work. As much as you could hate him for the despicable acts that he committed, at the same time, at different beats throughout Loki's appearances, they had different things about how he grew up, when he lost his mom and Thor: The Dark World, all those different bits and pieces you felt for him, and at the same time you loathed him. So he was a villain you loved to hate. And I kind of felt like Michael Keaton had that. He brought that same that same level of performance into his Vulture character, which really worked for me. And it shows Marvel is finally listening to us and doing a better job, that you can not have to dedicate a ton of screen time to a villain character, but at the same time, with the time you do use, you set them up properly, and it doesn't overshadow the hero at all. And it makes the climax of the movie and in the third act that much stronger, because you can understand why both of these sides are opposed to one another and are clashing. So I felt like that really worked. I loved it that this was one of the geekiest comic book movies that I think I've ever seen. It was so many little Easter eggs peppered throughout the movie. You get it? Pun? Peppered throughout the movie. I loved seeing, the inclusion of Mark Gargan. That was cool. Aaron Davis, which is in the Ultimate Universe, the Prowler, and he's the uncle of Miles Morales. So that was interesting. You have even like, it was such a small, and I had to look this up after I got home. I was like, man, that principal looks familiar, and I kept seeing the picture in his office of a guy, and I'm like, that looks like the guy from the Howling Commandos. And I was like, I'm going to look that up. And Marvel has done such a good job, because they did a similar thing in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where I can't remember what his name is off the top of my head, the black Howling Commando that was played in Captain America: The First Avenger. His great-grandson or grandson was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., which unfortunately he ended up getting killed off at one point. But it was cool. They made that direct tie. So I'd seen it used before, and I'm like, I think it's the guy. But what I wasn't realizing was that it was the exact same actor playing the great-grandson or grandson. That's the principal and Peter's school. So I thought that was just freaking awesome. Like, they slipped that in there, and it's like, if you didn't really pay attention and look it up, you wouldn't have known it. But it was just so cool that they included it. And I also thought, with all the Easter eggs, it was building up this world in this universe for things to be explored later. You don't have to explore them right away. They never called Adrian Toomes the Vulture, even though he had like a Vulture suit. They never directly called Phineas the Tinkerer, but that's who his character is. You can see that was set up again. Bokeem Woodbine as the Shocker. You never saw the Shocker proper in his costume, but that's something that they could build to. It was just so many great little seeds planted that they could explore, because they've set them up. They didn't dedicate a lot of screen time to them, and if you're not a diehard comics fan, you wouldn't know what these Easter eggs were when you even saw them. But if in another movie you saw that character pop up again, but a little bit more fleshed out, it's already been there. You've seen them before. It's not like a huge shock. They're like, oh, who's that? You've seen them before, but if you just give them more screen time gradually over time, or you follow those little plot lines, they become bigger ones. That's awesome. Excuse me. I thought Marissa Tomei was great as Aunt May. One downfall to it, though, is that you loved her so much as a character. Her chemistry with Tom Holland was so good. I just felt like we didn't see her enough in the movie. I would have loved to see her more. I love this is the youngest version of Aunt May that we've ever seen, even younger than Aunt May that we got in the Ultimate Universe. That was really a hip, modern type of Aunt May. Like I felt like, so they took the premise or the blueprint of Aunt May from the Ultimate Universe and then printed it. And Marissa Tomei has always been a quirky character of sorts. I go back to, as a kid on TV watching the spinoff show from The Cosby Show, A Different World, and she was one of the few white castmates on a fully pretty much black sitcom. She was on there. She was one of Lisa Bonet's roommates for the first season of the show. I think she was only on the first season of the first 2 seasons of the show where she got to start. So she was so quirky, being at like a historically black college, being this, Caucasian Italian, in this mix of this historically black college with predominantly, African Americans, and her fitting in, but how quirky she was. She's always always had that quirkiness to her in all the different roles she brought. So it just fits so perfectly in how she's the hot aunt that, everybody's pining over in the neighborhood, and like she's totally oblivious to it. And she's so caring with Peter, and their chemistry is just like so good. It works extremely well. And I just, hopefully I'm in the next film, that we see Spider-Man in, that she has a bigger part to play in the movie, because I just love seeing them together on screen. I think Jon Favreau was used extremely well in this movie. Probably the best utilization of his character probably since the beginning part of Iron Man 3, before he kind of got taken out. He's a great actor. He's a great actor and a supporting actor. So it really worked, because of course we saw all these scenes in the trailers of Tony Stark. He really wasn't in the film that much, which was awesome, because we could focus in on Peter and Spider-Man and what he was going through. But Happy was used as that happy kind of conduit between the two, and it was a constant reminder, hey, this is a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, and he wasn't even in the movie that much. He was in probably a lot more, but in smaller bits and pieces, and it just worked, and it just reminds you of the connected tissue that, hey, this is a part of this world. Another thing that I really loved about the movie was in the last act, going into the beginning of the confrontation between Spider-Man and the Vulture, the recreation of I think it's issue 33 of Spider-Man, where that cover where he's underground and there's water all around him, and he's lifting up the massive debris over his head. They recreated that, and I have to tell you, like, I almost got teary-eyed in the movie. Like, it gave me chills. It's like as a kid reading that comic, it was one of the comics that made me just fall in love with the character of Peter Parker, and just how determined, no matter how bad any situation was, he was able to persevere. And in that moment, and Tom Holland nailed it emotionally so well that, we don't realize he has all these amazing abilities, and he's trying to save people in his local neighborhood. You forget that he's just a kid, and they drove that point home here with him being, he's only 15 years old. So, when the Vulture, uses his wings to bring down the building, the debris on top of him, you hear him cry out for help. It just did something to me. And I'm like, I just felt this emotion, go through me. And I'm like, I'm not about to effing cry at a Spider-Man movie. And like, I really was. It took a lot for me to keep it together, because he sold it so well in the scene. And I hurt for him. I really felt what he was going through. We've all metaphorically speaking, we've all gone through things in life where we felt buried, and, just trying to get ourselves together to fight through. So I felt that, and it was such an emotional moment in the movie, and it just pulled me in, hook, line, and sinker to it. It just worked. John Watts, you got me, man. Like, just keep doing what you're doing with these movies. Keep this man attached. It's passion in what he's doing. Like, when you see a filmmaker capture scenes like that, they have passion for the property. You know what I mean? You need more people like that doing these movies. Just got me. I'm going to tell you, the Vulture was freaking scary in this movie. Like, not scary like in a horror sense, but they really adapted the Adrian Toomes character extremely well and modernized him to a point that he was really a menace and a threat. In the comics, Vulture is always kind of played off more as a joke, and he's an older guy, and with the bald head and the feathery outfit. How they did it, this is like the character design of the leather jacket with he had like the bombardier jacket with the feathers, that he looked like a vulture, but he wasn't. It was just such a modern reimagining adaptation to make it work for film so well, and it looked so great. They did such a good job with that. Because some people shuddered when they're like, the Vulture, how are they gonna do it? It worked so well and looked so stunning visually. When he would put the wing harness on, and it just really popped to me on screen. And then Michael Keaton and the chemistry between Michael Keaton and Tom Holland was great. Another favorite scene of mine is in the car when Liz is talking about Peter to her father, and how he always disappeared when Spider-Man was coming around, and Adrian is piecing together like Peter's Spider-Man. And then they get to the homecoming dance, and he says, "Gumdrop, go ahead and go inside. I got to give Peter the father talk." And we already knew when Peter walked in the house, and you had that big reveal that Adrian Toomes is Liz's father, and how awkward it was when Peter wanted to attack him but couldn't, and he's and then Adrian now figures out that Peter's Spider-Man a few minutes later on this ride into him chaperoning them taking them into the homecoming dance, and he figures it out, and how he just has a gun pulled out, and he's like, just stay out of my business. It was so intense, man. It was so had a visceral feel just through the conversation. You could feel the tension. You could cut it with a knife. It was just so electric. Tom Holland's reaction, Adrian's just stone cold coldness, and how he delivered the lines. It just was, I love that scene. I could just watch that scene over and over and over again. Just eat it up, man. Just good acting. And we understood exactly where both characters were coming from, because they set the groundwork from the very first scene of the movie through the end. You know what I'm saying? You knew this confrontation was going to happen. You didn't know the twist of him being, his crush's father, and all that kind of stuff. But man, it just was just done so well. Damn, I loved it. That's the only thing I say is I loved it. I do like the fact too that they focus more on it in the high school years. That's classic Spider-Man. I felt like in both of the other movies, you saw maybe some high school, but it was very brief. They wanted to get to the adult Peter Parker, but most of the classic stories came from, the Lee Ditko early. He was in high school struggling through, finding his way through high school. So I'm glad they pulled from that. They also pulled a lot from the Ultimate and bits and pieces from modern stories, and they took them all together and did a great amalgamation to incorporate it into something that felt like that would resonate with old head fans like myself, the next generation following, and even younger kids. And I felt like that's what will make this will have this movie resonate for a long time because of that. They pulled from all the classic eras of Spider-Man and took a lot of different pieces and did a lot of different stuff, but made it all relatable and made it very modern, but have a good overall feel to hit all the buttons, to hit all the different demographics of comic fans, I believe. I like the diversity that the movie showed. I feel like for some people it might be too much. They might have felt like they went overboard with it. I felt like it's needed because a lot of the different races and just it's what our world is today. It's what our country is today. So I'm glad it was reflected on screen, and hope to see that trend grow more and more moving forward. But, you know, not everybody is modern thinking as myself and some of us comic fans, and we still have a general audiences that go in to see these movies, and they might feel like they're being heavy-handed with it. I felt like, no, it was a very realistic modern day representation of what our world looks like, and we need to see that in more films in Hollywood, not just comic book movies, but movies as a whole. One thing I didn't care for, felt mixed on, was the spider suit. Was it too Stark centric? Excuse me. I feel like it in one way, I felt like it took away from one of the things that makes Peter great, is that his own smarts and ingenuity. But I do like they play that up like he did create his own webbing in that part, but then he made his suit. And it made sense how they're tying him into the Marvel Cinematic Universe with him idolizing Tony, and then Tony making him this cool suit. I don't know. Part of me felt I liked the suit, and they did a good job in infusing a lot of humor into the fact of him trying to learn how to use the suit. And sometimes it does not make sense to me how in all the other Spider-Man movies that he just becomes this master seamstress to make this cool outfit. And it's like, how did he know how to do that? So it doesn't make sense. So I kind of excuse it, but at the same time, I felt like it took out a big part of who Peter was. But now, you have to modernize it. So you got to have the whole the tech part amped up. It's just the day and age we kind of live in now. But I felt like it took out a big part of the soul of Peter and him making his outfits and all that kind of stuff. I missed that part, and I felt like that part was kind of taken away, but I like how they made it work and infused so much of the humor into it. But I hope to see that maybe not maybe in the second movie, but maybe in the third movie, because we know this is going to be a trilogy, that you see something where Ned and Peter make his own version of the spider suit. I would like to see something like that. And they showed him hacking and playing around with the suit and unlocking the different protocols and stuff in the suit. So it would be kind of cool to see them kind of formulate their own version, or they modify a version of one of the Tony suits into something specifically for him. I think that would be great. And in the Siege, you've seen it, so I would kind of like to see that. And I don't know, I think I've gushed about this movie long enough to you guys. Another thing that really worked, and I thought that was awesome, because we've already had the weekend box office coming, if I can talk, have come in, because I'm recording this on Tuesday, is that it made $117 million domestically opening weekend, which they estimated it around 100, so it exceeded expectations. Overall, globally, the movie made $250 million. That's awesome for Sony and Marvel, because the Spider-Man movies didn't do nearly as well. So it's great to see that Spider-Man's back where he needs to be. Hopefully it'll have the same legs and can go and do extremely well over a long period of time, like Wonder Woman has, and even Guardians did this summer, because it's that good of a movie and it's just fun. It was the first movie in a long time, comic book movie anyway, that I could say honestly I would go pay to see again in a movie theater. Like, it was that much fun, and I felt like with all the Easter eggs and all the other little things that in repeat viewings I would always feel like I would get or see something new each time I would watch it. I really honestly feel that way. I'm going to speculate a little bit. So, because of, we already know they've already announced 2019 is going to be, well, it's untitled, or Spider-Man Homecoming 2. Let's just call it that at this point. I feel like they had 2 end credit scenes, one in prison with Toombs being approached again by Gargan, saying that he heard a rumor that who Spider-Man is, and Toombs says, if I knew who he was, he would be dead already. So we know that's a lie because he knows who he is. So is Toombs trying to save the knowledge he has for himself, or because he liked Peter and the chemistry and the talks that they had, since he saved his life and he saved his daughter's life, is he like kind of going straight again? And he's not going to go after Peter. They left it very wide open that you don't know which way. I feel like in a sequel, I wouldn't want to see Toombs directly involved in the second movie at all. But I want to know, maybe in another end credit scene, maybe he's getting out of jail, and when we finally get a direction, if he's going to go bad again, and what happens, and maybe it can be a lead in to a third movie and setting up maybe the Sinister Six, or down the road you're starting to see the machinations of what will become the Sinister Six. I feel like the next villain should definitely be Kraven the Hunter. They've already said that they're already trying to work on getting a treatment of a script for the sequel put together, and they said it will be a villain that we have not seen on screen before. So you have Kraven and Mysterio. I think you just have to do Kraven. And I thought about one actor. I was racking my brain, and I talked to my wife about this, and I was like, man, they got to do Kraven, but who could play a good Kraven? And I came up with one actor. His name is Martin Kazakis. If you know him, he played the villain in the Equalizer movie with Denzel Washington. He was, I think, the villain in the first XXX movie with Vin Diesel. He was, if you watch the TV show Into the Badlands, he was the villain of that show the first season. You've seen him and so many different things in TV and movie. He does this, the intensity. I think he looks physically intimidating, especially when you put him up against Tom Holland. I think it would work. You just look him up, Martin Kazakis. So it's Marton. Last name is Sokas. Just look him up on IMDb. You'll know who I'm talking about when you see his picture. And a very imposing, big, tall guy. I just think he would crush it. And to keep in the theme of what Michael Keaton brought to the Vulture, I know this guy could bring it to Kraven. I would like to also see maybe in the sequel that we see that evolution. We know that the Shocker is still out there. We know the Tinker is still out there. So to see something, storyline where we see Phineas upgrading Shocker's tech, so we can see him etch towards, he doesn't have to be a major villain at all, but you can see him etching more towards the traditional Shocker that we see in the comics. Then we get some version of a more proper suit that we're familiar with from the comics, and again helps you build up towards the Sinister Six, because you would already have Vulture. If you introduce Kraven, and then we see something with Shocker, and we know Scorpion's out there, you already have, just again where they did such a great job planting seeds and world building. You can already have those things there, and you're working towards it. Even if you don't get in the third movie, that if they're continuing on with this, we could see them shortly thereafter. Excuse me. I would definitely like to see that explored. I know this probably will never happen, but I would really love to see the Kingpin Daredevil, Punisher cross over to Tom Holland's Spider-Man, because a lot of the early Spider-Man stuff tied into Kingpin, and they have such a great actor playing him over on the television show, on the Netflix series, and you got Daredevil and Punisher there, and they all have ties to one another from the comics. I would love to see him, since Tom Holland is a local neighborhood Spider-Man. It really ties into the theme of what the Marvel Netflix shows are. So I would love to see Vincent D'Onofrio reprise his Kingpin role in the Spider-Man movies. It would just fit so perfectly on where they're going with it. We probably won't ever see it because no one wants to acknowledge the Netflix stuff in the larger cinematic universe. So, well, I would love to see it, but I don't think it'll actually ever come to fruition. And I would also like to see maybe set up going into the third movie, is that we also see, like in an end credit scene, that you see Phineas working on a new super suit for the incoming villain Mysterio, because we do know from the comics Tinker helped create the original suit for Mysterio. So you see him working on something new, and then you see a guy emerge from the shadows, and he's like perfect, and you get the image of a modernized version of the Mysterio suit, just to set up what would come in Spider-Man Homecoming 3. I think like how they, if they keep planting seeds and doing the world building like they have been, all these things would be awesome to see in the second movie, be it through, end credit scenes or the small plot threads that go on during the overall movie. It would be cool to see. Now, going to my ranking the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, because this is still one of them. My rank from worst to first would be still Thor: Dark World. The Dark World is number 16. Iron Man 2 would be next. Iron Man 3 after that. Avengers: Age of Ultron next. Number 12 would be The Incredible Hulk. Number 11 is Doctor Strange. Number 10 is Thor. Number 9 is Ant-Man. Number 8 is Captain America: The First Avenger. Number 7 is Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 6 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Number 5 for me is Spider-Man Homecoming. Number 4 is Iron Man. Number 3 is The Avengers. Number 2 is Captain America: Civil War. And number 1 for me is still Captain America: The Winter Soldier for my ranking of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. So, it's going to be interesting. And they've already said that Spider-Man Homecoming 2, or whatever it's going to be named, is going to be the first film of Phase 4. So we still have, Black Panther coming. We have that in February 16th, 2018. Then we got Avengers Infinity War, which is going to be May. Then we have Captain Marvel, that's going to be in March 2019. Then we have the Avengers 4, because we don't have a title for that yet, coming May 3rd, 2019. And then in July 5th of 2019, we're going to have Spider-Man Homecoming 2. So it's so much that we're going to see between now and then. And we know for sure that Spider-Man's going to be back in Avengers Infinity War. We don't know if he's going to pop up in any of the movies thereafter. I'm assuming he might have a part in Avengers 4. We know for sure in Avengers Infinity War. We don't know yet about Avengers 4. But we do know he's the first proper film. They announced that this past weekend doing press that he is going to be our eyes into what Phase 4 is going to be. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shapes out. Now, for my score for the movie, because I so left that out of the review part of the movie, I gave it a 9 out of 10, a must buy. I love this movie. Like I said, it's one of the few movies I've seen in a long time that I could honestly say I would go pay money to watch again, not wait for it to come out on home video and buy it. But I would want to go back and have another movie experience and see that in the movie theater. And like I said, it's been a while since I felt that strongly about a movie to want to go pay to see it again and again and again. But it was just so much fun, and I just liked it. Was a breath of fresh air, just overall. And it's the overall vibe of it all, of the comic book movie genre, that they did something different. And I love the high school vibe. And again, it just took me back to my childhood, reading the hand-me-down comics from, my family members, that, my cousins, that got me into comics, because I had a lot of cousins and uncles that were into comics, that I got to read a lot of this classic stuff and reprints and so forth to read these stories. So it's really awesome seeing it portrayed so well on the big screen. Only thing else I have for you guys is definitely check out the YouTube channel. It's unique content from what you're hearing on, here on the podcast or the audio show. I have done last few episodes. I did a series spotlight on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in their Northampton trade. I've done a video about Injustice 2 as a follow-up, just showing off some of the game. I've done. I did my impressions and my first thoughts of another comic book video game, which is a free-to-play game, Marvel Heroes Omega, that I just did last week. So I'm doing different content. So don't feel like, hey, it's just regurgitated stuff or condensed stuff off of this episode. When it's something like a movie review, because I always do a longer form content here, shorter form, because again, people, I've had to learn that in the process of doing shorter form stuff because of YouTube and it's video and it's a whole different format. So I try to keep the content there. I'm 8 episodes in. The first few was like a little longer, but I've kind of found my niche on doing video, and I try to keep it to under 10 minutes for you guys. So it's something you can go when you're at home, or if you're on your phone, that you're going to be able to watch this stuff. And stuff that I want to cover quickly or just give my thoughts about is going to be where that stuff resides. So definitely go by youtube.com/comic book savant. It's just more content, and you get to see my big ugly mug. So it's something different that I'm doing. Again, like I said, you guys motivated me to do it over the years, and I was so hesitant, and I've been so glad that I went out on a limb and started doing it. You just have to get off your butt sometime and just push through your own nervousness and feelings and just give it a try. It's easier to try something and fail to never try it at all, and always left wondering what if I could have, or what if I did. That sometimes we are our own worst enemy. So definitely check by the YouTube channel, or just go to comicbooksavant.com. Everything that is the portal for everything Comic Book Savant related is the website. So if you're not going there, you definitely need to. I'm posting all the content through there. So, if you don't want to go directly, you can go right to, comicbooksavant.com and watch the content. But please, if you have a moment, go over to there, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell notification so you're notified when new videos come up. Right now I'm just doing one a week. I want to start doing more content because it's going to be short formed and giving more thoughts of impressions, maybe trailer reactions to when trailers drop and stuff like that I want to, I'm building it up. And like I said, I'm getting more comfortable. I'm learning about editing. So I want to do more and more. I want it to be an extension of what I do here in the audio and video form. Also follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram if you want to, register for the contest. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram. Share share a post on Instagram, hashtag Comic Book Savant, so you're entered in to winning the contest. that's all I have for you guys. Oh, and if you have a moment, stop by iTunes and leave a review. It's so cool. And, when I got the review, like I said, I normally will go check. I don't get a ton. It helps the show and it helps get it exposure. But whatever you guys do for spreading and sharing the content helps tremendously. So don't ever think it doesn't. It impacts, by just sharing the content. If you know someone that is in the comics that might be in a podcast or now with video with the YouTube, share the link of the content out to your friends that might enjoy it. And it helps me tremendously, and it helps the channel to grow. We're a community, and I want to do more, and I want to do more with you guys. And the only way I can do it is in unison. We have to do it together as a team, and you've been doing great. Let's do more of it. Check me out on Facebook. Again, like I said, I started a Comic Book Savant Facebook group. All you have to do is do a search for Facebook on groups for Comic Book Savant. Add yourself, and then I'll approve it. We're in there talking about comics. I try to post in there every couple of days, get conversations started, and just and get your guys' opinion on stuff. This is a collaborative process. I look at numbers based on what I put out and how you guys respond to it, or if you guys send me feedback. Or if you review something and say something in your review, all these things are markers for me to go in to understand what kind of content you guys want from me to take the show in that direction. So more great things to come. I appreciate you guys for everything. We're on the countdown. We're less than a month away now to the 11-year anniversary. I cannot believe that, it's been 11 years of doing this, and I'm still having a ball. I never thought I would make it to episode 10, more or less 344, and got more coming. We'll be close to 350 by the time we hit the anniversary show. So it's just amazing. And I appreciate you guys for everything. That's all I have for you guys this week. And I will see you again next week for another episode of Comic Book Savant. You guys take care and have a good week.
And into lyrical wholeness. And I know this, and I know this. This I know, this I know.